So it's just a JavaScript library for building user interfaces, and it was developed by Facebook, which is currently known as Meta, and it's a component-based, declarative, and efficient. So React will help us build some interactive UIs easily, and so think of it like Lego blocks. So we create a reusable components instead of writing repetitive HTML tags. So that is the purpose of React, and a simple guide to framework, which is now will help you when to use React, when to use just HTML, and maybe when to use other JavaScript libraries, framework like React, Angular, or Next. So your first question is are you building a site or a web application? And if it's a site, which is just maybe a static website, maybe a landing page, HTML would do better with that. But if your application, it's like a web application, so there's difference between a site and app. So it's a website and a web application. So a site is just maybe static pages, and they do not have that much dynamic data coming from them. But a web API, or not web API, but a web application, on the other hand, it's a website that has most of interactive, and in most cases you find it has a dashboard or somewhere to log in and so do some operation on that application. So when it comes to if you're building now a web application, React would be the best suit framework for that. If you need something like that needs some server-side rendering and how much interactivity you may want, you may consider things like Next.js that has that's do both server-side and client rendering. So this is just a guide on how and when to decide, maybe when to use the normal HTML, time to use React, and time to use maybe a front end, a backend together, and you don't want to go with different frameworks. So you might want to consider Next.js that can handle front end and backend together. If you are focusing on things to do with the SEO optimization, search engine optimization, Next.js is best suited for that. And the next thing is to ask your question, why learn React? And why should I, and when should I learn React? So of course, why to learn React? It's the hype and a job, and of course, trade in the market currently. In most systems these days, they are being converted to React, and also in building UI. So it makes easy to manage and build complex frontend. That is why you need to learn React. When to learn React is after mastering JS or TS. So both of them you'll be having a great advantage to understand um, how React operates if you have mastered JavaScript and TypeScript. And most projects do not need React in the initial phase, but as the system or the project grows and the user base become large, you might want to shift to React because of how it's easy to manage and build some now complex front end with that. And so why was React created in first case? So we said React was developed by the company called Meta, and while the Facebook newsfeed was becoming slow to update as the app was growing, app when the user base was becoming popular, the application, and direct DOM updates was very slow in terms of like mutating the browser DOM on every changes was very inefficient. Think of it like how the Facebook app or the website operate. You find like we have the Facebook web app, we have the notification part here, which has the messages and notification. So we have a pop-up um, chat window that you can chat. Then we have the news feed. So under the news feed, we have likes, we have comments, and maybe dislikes. And also remember, we have some reels in that website. We have some marketplace and the rest. So updating or mutating all of this DOM, it became very inefficient because of maybe you want to update the this component, which is maybe the chat window, or you want to get the updates or notification. So the solution to this was having a virtual DOM, which now React uses. So React keeps a lightweight or a copy of the UI in a memory. Then it computes and patches only what was changed. So it has a virtual DOM, which is just a copy of the UI. Then it computes some differences and checks or patches the only page or part that was changed. Or what am I trying to say? So we have the UI of Facebook. Excuse me. So the, the React, what it does, it saves this maybe a snapshot of this, which is a lightweight copy of this UI. Then it checks some differences. So if it's the chat window that has an update, it is the only part that will be updated instead of updating or reloading the whole what? A page. If it's the news feed, about the likes and the comments. So if you are commenting on a post, that is the only part that will be updated to avoid the issue of re-rendering the whole of the page that would take much time and maybe in most cases when you have a slow internet. So that was why React was created and was to solve this issue of DOM or mutating the browser DOM, which has a very much data in it. So you need only to update the part that was updated, not just updating all the components. So the analog of this is think of traditional DOM as a painting, maybe a directory on a wall every time you need to change. So you repaint the whole wall, but now the React Virtual DOM, it's like a sketching or tracing on a paper first, and then only repainting the tiny bits that differs in that wall. So things like the Facebook we are talking about, we have a lot of dozens of posts, we have comments, we have likes, we have live updates, we have reels, we have messages. So React let Facebook now to batch updates and the new comments plus likes and re-render just a component that is as a what? An update. So that is the purpose of a React. So the only or the easiest way to define a React or how React operates. So React operates on two DOMs, the real DOM and the virtual DOM. So the virtual DOM is a lightweight copy of that UI. Then it gets the difference and patches only the parts that was changed in the what? In the UI. So that is the simplest form. For now, you can explain how React operates. And then as we continue, so in most cases, do not learn React if you are yet to understand how JavaScript operates. That's not a lie, it's true, and you need to understand especially DOM manipulation. So if you're not aware of how DOM operates, React might be a challenge to you. Then the React running process. So you go depth with things like the Babel on how to transfer your code. We have the virtual DOM, the difference algorithm that checks the actual DOM and the virtual DOM. Then hydration. So hydration is just updating the real DOM with the difference that you're getting from the virtual DOM. And for you to understand React, you need to make a lot of projects, and it's good to have one topic at a time, and especially the to-do application, maybe the calculator, and consuming the GitHub API to build maybe uh, a dashboard for user analytics over GitHub username or the profile. Then first thing, React is not a framework, it's a library. Why are we saying it's a library? So the next slide talks about the difference between a library and a framework. So the first thing is control flow. In most cases, you call a library. Once we install a library in your project, you call that library using the function or the class that library was installed with. But in most cases, the framework calls your code. That is the inversion of control. Then a library, you choose how to structure your app, but in a framework, there are rules that you defined by the framework to that guides you on how to uh, use that framework. So the framework defines the structure, but the library, you choose how to structure your application. So library is less opinionated. It gives you tool to build, but framework gives you rules to implement. So that is a big difference. Then a library is easy to integrate with other tools, but a framework typically include everything you need when using a framework. And of course, library is much simpler and focused to the point. But the framework, on the other hand, it has a broader learning curve and covers more aspects. So these are the key difference between the library and framework. And why are we saying React? It's not a framework, but a library. So it only focuses on the view layer. So it is responsible just for building the UI components. It does not dictate routing, the state management, or data fetching. So these are now other third-party libraries that helps you now integrate with this React library. So that is why you are saying in the previous PPT, you are saying it's easy to integrate with other tools. So things like now the state management, things to do with routing or the React router, things to do with maybe data fetching. So a library like Anxious. So it's easy to integrate in a library rather than a framework. So you can control the architecture. So you decide which state management to use. Maybe you can use Redux, you can use Zastand, you can use React Router, you can use Ansios and etc. So it does not force you to into any structure. It is you as a developer to choose what you love to integrate with React. But working with a framework like Angular, you need to follow the rules that are defined by the Angular framework. But in React, it's a difference. So it can be used with different stacks. You can use React with the vanilla JS, you can use it with the Next.js, you can use it with the Django, Laravel from PHP, or even embed them into other applications very easily. So, and the final, it's you write, and you write and call the React components. So React does not control your whole application lifecycle, especially like the Angular and Vue CLI apps might operate. So key thing to note about after understanding what is React or how React operates. So we said it operates on two DOMs, a real and a virtual DOM. A virtual DOM keeps a right copy of your application, then it gets the difference and patches the only patch that was what has a difference. Then React is a library because it only focuses on the view layer. You control the architecture. You can use any, or you can integrate it with any stack. And finally, no inversion of control. So you call the React components, but and the framework, it gives you some rules, and then some topics to learn on React. First of all is the core basics, or the core concept of React. Things like state, things like UI manipulation, things like JSX for JavaScript extension, and TSX for TypeScript uh, extension. So then the other thing is about component reusability. That is the most thing we'll be using in React. We don't want to repeat ourselves rewriting most of these components. We want to be able to define or create a new component and reuse it maximally in our application. Then the other thing is, of course, reusing component with props, so the properties. So you can create a component, and this component must be reusable using what? Different what? Properties or argument that you pass on that what? Components. So then the other thing is, of course, how to propagate changes or how to propagate states in your application. And additional concept in React you want to learn after learning the core basics of React. It's of course the router. So the router, we say it's another library that helps React to navigate on different application or different pages across your application. And the next thing that is very important is state management. So React does not have a state management. So it's all about you to choose which state management you want to use in your application. So we have Redux, we have Redux Toolkit, we have Zastad, we have Context API, and of course we have another called Tanstack. So it's another upcoming new state management which is very easy to integrate. But most cases you will find the Redux. It is one of the oldest state management, and most companies use this. But in these days, the companies are shifting to Zustand and Tanstack in terms of how efficient it is and how less code you are writing compared to this. Then at some point, you may want to learn the class-based component instead of functional-based component. In most companies, you'll find they have this thing we call legacy code. So the legacy code uses class-based component where you have the classes and objects in that application. But in recent application or companies that are new, you find them with functional based components. So you may want to understand how class-based operates in React because if you're hired in a company that uses legacy code, the legacy code is the old version, which is now the class-based. You may need to understand that and how it operates. Then, of course, you need to build some applications and a project to help you solidify the React skill when it comes to as far as React is concerned. So in most cases like social media clone, e-commerce application, blogging site, what else application can you build? Your front end. Maybe a gym website. We have a pizza or onion ordering application, things like that. So once you do that, you are sure you'll be having something, or you'll be in a position to understand React well. So after learning React, what next? we said React is not a complete solution in most cases. It's not based in SEO optimization. So you may be required to learn a little about SEO optimization to make sure your React application it's indexed in the Google engine very well with the SEO optimization. Things to do with the browser rendering of JavaScript and TS, then the routing. So you need to understand how the routing operates on React. Then the next thing now you can shift to framework and see how the framework operates different from a library like React. So things like Next.js, Gatsby, Remix, maybe Vue, also a framework. You may want to learn and see the differences between the React or the library and the framework, and you see what's best framework or React fits your application you are trying to build. So we said React is not a complete solution to everything. You need to understand and get to explore other things. So that is just an intro of what is React, why we need React, when to learn React, and the next thing is now how React operates. So there are three concepts in React, which is reconciliation, composition, and error boundaries. And reconciliation, so React uses the clever defining algorithm that we said about. So the algorithm is used to update only what was changed. So this is the magic now behind the fast UI updates. In most cases, we are referring Facebook because it uses React. That is why you see Facebook. You can comment, you can like, you can text at the same time without the page reloading, just because of this concept in React called reconciliation. So the clever algorithm checks for the updates only the part that was updated, then update that. Then the other thing is about composition. So composition, so instead of having a massive one component, you break your UI into smaller reusable chunks, components. So this is how we scale cleanly with these now smaller chunk of components. Then the other thing is about error boundaries. So in most cases, React does not catch errors by default inside the components. So these special wrappers. So you have some special wrappers that helps you prevent your application from breaking entirely. So there are some error boundaries or some wrappers we'll be wrapping our application with to avoid it breaking the whole entire application. So the next thing is now rendering. So in most cases, you hear me rendering this component, rendering this. So rendering is just process of now converting the React component into actual DOM elements. We said for you to understand React, you need to know basics of JavaScript and how DOM application or DOM manipulation operates. So, so rendering is a process of now converting the React component into actual DOM words elements. So it happens initially when whenever a state or a prop changes in React. So we start from the JSX component, which is React. So it's JSX or the TSX, which is mostly we'll be using TSX because we'll be using TypeScript. So TSX is just an extension for React in JavaScript. TSX is an extension for React in TypeScript. So in most cases, you will find us writing our component with .tsx. So we are rendering, which is now the process of converting these TSX components, which are the React elements, to a what? A DOM what? Elements, which is now the document that we be using. So think of rendering as if like now React painting on the screen while you change data, which is now the state or properties. So React will automatically repaint only the part that was changed. That is the most important thing we talked about React. You don't want to keep on reloading your web app. You want to only re-render the part that was and some changes. If it is this page only or the button, you want only to update that part alone instead of updating the entire what page. So it checks for different. It's very much different from traditional DOM that we used to learn some few weeks ago, and where you need to change your DOM manually. But in React, that happens automatically. Anytime you have a change in your React component, the React compiler will render that into now HTML what document. So the React rendering step. So a trigger will triggering a re-render. So when you want to re-render a page or a component in your application, there are three things to can happen when a rendering can happen. The first thing is when you have a state change. So a state change is now the current state of your application. So if you have a state is now like in this context of our Facebook, where you have a message popping up. That's a state that makes your application to re-render. So it will only re-render that a chat window for the Facebook. Then maybe can be a props change. So if it's they work the same. So props and states, they are properties that you pass in a component. Then the virtual DOM will help you do that with now the algorithm that checks the differences between the actual DOM and the virtual DOM that now checks this. So it checks for difference. So the actual DOM is this one in blue, but through the state or the property change, maybe one property was changed. So it will now re-render your application where only that stage was done what? Triggered from. Then the re-render does not don't allow mean that does not always mean a full update in the DOM manipulation. So thanks to the virtual DOM that helps us just to re-render only the page or only the component that has changes. And we can say React is smart. So it compares what was rendered before with the new outputs and only update what the differences. That is why you can say it's smart because imagine every time you have a change, you are rendering your out page. You'll be waiting so much long for your page to reload again, the entire page, instead of just updating only the component that was changed. And with that now, of course, the next thing is now a way to create a React what? Application. And in most cases, there are only two ways, which is create React app, which is the traditional way, and the modern way is using the Vite or Vite. So the Vite is next generation front-end tooling, and it will help you, in things to do with padding, compiling your application, re-rendering, and the next, the such features that come with this Vite tool. And we can see it's just like maybe the TSX version of backend, where it helps you in reloading and maybe running your application without before even compiling your application. So Vite helps you to reload your application, like maybe to watch changes in your application, things to do with buffering, compiling your application, and even bringing your application to production. So Vite will help excuse me. And so the CRA, which is Create React App, is now the old version, which is now use the NPX, then create what? React App, then your React application name, like my app, or e-commerce or maybe blogging site. So this is just the name of your React application. If you don't want a name, so you can create a folder manually. Then instead of adding your my app there, you can just say npx create React app, then use dot. So dot to indicate the current folder that you have created. That is the best way I see it for my convenience that way. Then Vite, on the other hand, is very much simpler. You only need to call the pnpm create Vite. So under Vite now will help you or choose the framework or the library you want. So Vite has now all the React framework or the JavaScript framework, which is React, Angular, React with router version 7, Vue, Remix, and the rest. So you choose one, and then you choose, you import or you install the dependencies. And finally, some differences command. So in most cases, you find they are the same, especially when you want to initialize. So it's either npm init, yarn init, or pnpm what. Or if you're using other package manager like ban. So it's ban init. Then you want to install some dependencies. So it's in npm, it's npm install. Yarn, you only just need to call yarn. Then in pnpm, it's just pnpm install or pnpm I. So either of these will do the same thing. So if you want to install a package, you need, if it's npm, it's npm install, then the package name, like TypeScript or TSX. That is what we are talking about. On pnpm, the other one is pnpm and what? The package name. If you want to save some dev dependencies, same case, but you need to indicate you are saving as a what? Dev dependencies. So you need to have that. So you want to remove a package, so you use the package pnpm uninstall the package name. If it's yarn, it's yarn remove. npm is npm uninstall. That is how whatever is happening here. You want to audit some vulnerability dependencies, so you just list them with this command. If you want to run your application, so it's npm run scripts. So maybe dev start or build. So that is the script name. Then if you want to build, it's npm build, yarn build, pnpm build. So you can just add pnpm run build or pnpm build, which is the same. If you want to test your application, you have some testing functionality in your application, you can run using this command. And finally, it's now to understand the React app
Excuse
ordering
me,
structure. Yes.
just before you leave the previous page. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm confused. I was wondering whether on the PNPM column, is it PNPM uninstall or PNPM remove?
Most cases, both of them will work. PNPM uninstall, PNPM remove will work. But most cases, PNPM uninstall, the one operates. If for Yan, it's
Okay,
now the one I know remove works.
okay, it's because for PNPM I've been using remove, and also PNPM install. I think it's PNPM add.
Yeah, yeah. Any can do. That is a good
Okay.
thing with these packages. Okay, so with that now, we may want to jump on our VS Code and try out something on React or write our first React code. In the
Hello,
first thing we said, yes,
hello, question.
yeah,
Yeah, my question is, why do you
yes.
have those different commands like npm, pnpm, yarn, and also ban?
Okay, that's a good question, Brighton. Why do we have difference? So I'll just give you or explain it with a layman language. It's like Airtel and Safaricom. Both they give you the same what? Services, but one is more efficient more than the other one. So same case, NPM, yarn, NPM. These are package managers. One is doing better than the other one. So that is just a big difference. So it's all about your preference, whether you like yarn, whether you like PNPM, whether you like what? NPM. You're getting, Brighton?
Yes.
Yeah, so in most cases, PNPM or yarn or ban, they are the latest uh, package managers. They are come with a lot of efficiency when installing some dependencies. And if you want to compare that, you can try to spin up application, whether the backend or frontend, using PNPM and NPM. You see some big difference. One difference is cache functionality. When installing dependencies with NPM, it's able to check your machine locally, whether you have ever installed that library. And instead of installing it from the internet, it just uses that library. With that makes it easy and quick to install that dependencies. On the other hand, NPM must always check from the internet. Then PNPM, of course, it has the cache mechanism. So when maybe you are disconnected from the internet while installing some dependencies, PNPM will cache that, and when you are reconnected, it will just continue from where it left. But on the other hand, NPM, which is the now native package manager that comes with a node, uh, it's not that efficient. If the network goes down, the installment goes down. You need to restart again from scratch. That is the cons of NPM. So PNPM, YARN, and the other one, which is BAN. You find they are most efficient and most developers use them instead of this uh, initial or the native package manager. Are you together? Okay. So you find me now, instead of using now the CRA, the Create React App, which is the traditional, we will be working with now the Vite, which is now the build tool for the web. So it's a blazing fast front-end build tool powering what? The next generation of web application. So you see it has all the application, whether the Angular, React, Vue, and the rest. So if I go now to get started, it will just give you the application or the documentation on how to learn about the Vite. So it's vite.dev. That is the official documentation of Vite. And it's just a French name. Means what? Quick. Remember from the backend. What was the meaning of honor? It was a Japanese name. Meaning what? Was it fire? Yeah, something like that. So Vite now is a French word for quick. And it's most cases for pronounced as Vite. And it's a build tool that aims to provide what? Faster, leaner development experience for modern what? Web application. So it consists of two major parts. The dev server, which is us providing some rich features, enhancement over the native ES6 ES module. For example, the extremely fast auth module replacement or auth reload. That is what it has replaced that. Then it has some build command that bundles your application with some rollup pre-configured to the output and highly optimized for the what? Asset for production. So it's an opinionated and comes with a sensible what? Default out of the box. If you want to learn about the features guide and the rest, you'll be able to watch there. So some browsers support. So it supports most of the browsers that we have. The Firefox, Chrome, Edge, Brave, and the rest. And so it supports all the templates for JavaScript framework. So whether you are using vanilla JavaScript, Vue, React, pre-React, Lead, Servlet, Solid, and Quick. Same case with TypeScript. So those are um, the templates that Vue supports. So if you want to scaffold your first application with Vue, so it's very simple. You see the NPM is always the first one. We have Yarn, we have PNPM, we have Ban and Dino. So it's all about now your preference, which package manager you like. But in most cases, or what I like, it's using what? PNPM. So I just copy the PNPM what? Create void. So that is how you scaffold your first project with Vue. So the rest is just how uh, you want to understand or get more information about the Vue. So it's all about how you install the dependencies, how you run the application. If you want some manual installation of Vue in your application, so you can use any of these command, then you run or you end up ptag there, then you run with this npx fit. If it's pnpm, it's pnpm void and the rest. So these are just information or how the Vite manages and helps you what we call now the modern tooling for modern front-end development. So that's all about React and Vite. The other one is the Create React app, which is the traditional way, but we won't be going back there because I want to use what is in the market currently. So let's create our first React application with this command here, with the help of this Vite. So which is now pnpm create what? Vite. So that is the command you want to make sure. So also remember something to note. So Vite requires a node version which is higher than what? 20.1. So if you're having a node which is less than or which is below 20.19, you may want to upgrade to the newest node. And yeah, it would be good to go with what? The Vite. So let me just open now my folder here. So on my folder, on week 7, I want now to create a folder there for the first project. So I think this is the way I like creating a folder, then opening it with VS Code. So this can be what? My first React app. So then open this with VS Code or the terminal, the way you want to open this with VS Code. Once you opening, it should be on this folder, not outside. So I need to go in, then open this with VS Code. So once I open this, then open your terminal, then just write the command to create your what? Your React using Vite. So it's pnpm create what? Vite. So once that is done, it will just ask you for your project name. Since I created this, my first project, my first React project, I will use that as my project name or the project folder name. So for this case, I just have // to indicate I want my project name to be the folder I am in. If I don't have that folder name, I'll just type it there. Then, okay, so the package name. So remember the package.json file. You want to give it this name of the same name with we have in our project folder name. So press tab to indicate my first React app. That is the package name. The next thing now is to select your framework. And for this case, we want to select what? React. With that, so there are various variants for React. There's React with TypeScript. There is React with TypeScript and React compiler. We have React with TypeScript with server-side rendering component. Then we have React with JavaScript. Same case, JavaScript with React compiler, JavaScript with server-side component. Then we have React with React Router version 7. We said React does not come with React Router. You need to install that library, but Vite can help you install both at the same time. Install React and install the React version 7. Then if you don't want the React router, you can install the TankStack router. Then we have the Redhook, then RSC. So for this case, you only want the TypeScript, React with TypeScript. And the rest of the dependencies, we store them independently. So select one, then Vite is saying it comes with a lot of features that helps you in front-end development. So something like the roll down Vite, which is in experimental mode, but I don't want it. So I just select no for this time. Once you do that, so you want to install now what? The dependencies with the PNPM and start the server automatically. So that is the goodness of now Vite. So I'll just say yes. Then with less than 2 minutes, your React component or the React framework library will be scaffolded in your folder. And once that the dependencies have been installed, it should start your application on port 5173. So let's just for the dependencies to install. With less than a minute, Vite with the help of PNPM package manager, everything is installed and the server is started at port what? 5173. So if I go to this port 5173, my the React component or the React project, it should load now the initial React project that is comes with the template. So it's just the Vite and the React. Then it has a button there which has a state. We talked about how React works with state and the props. So for this, like this called the use state. So use state keeps track of the current state. Then it updates that state with a function or a set of function in that state. So even time I click this by one, it update it with 1, 1, 1, 1. If I reload this page, it factory reset or back to the default, which is 0. Then you start again. But with the help of now the state management, we can be able to manage this state, even if we render this. If we are at state 5, it will only remain at state 5. But that is the help of now the state management, like Redux, TanStack, Zaxstart, and the rest. So it will be able to remember where you are instead of going back to where? To default. So that is just now the simple React application running. And the cool thing with Vite and React, uh, I can expose this port to the same network we have, and you can test it in your on your side. So the only thing I want to do is just to stop the server and go to the package.json. So the package.json, remember the package name that we were asked to type is the package name that we were typing. In most cases, you will find it's the same name with your project name. Then it has some versions there. So it's type module. Then already the scripts are set for us. So the React dev, PNPM run dev. So Vite is now the one we call. The same case with the bucket. We are calling PNPM run dev. We are calling what? The TSX, then watch mode. Then in frontend, Vite now will be responsible for that. in building your application, you use TSC plus what? A vit to build your application. If you are having some a testing function in your application, you want to use the lint to check for errors and the rest. So if you want to preview, so preview it right now, npm pnpm run start in the backend. So in the front end, if you want to preview your Bardot or transpile code, you use this preview. Then the next command I wanted to add was something I said about how I can expose this application in the same network we are, so that you can be able to see the changes in real time. So I can call it host. Then the script that I want to run can be vit dash dash host. So if I run this now command, I should start the server on a network. So the network we are, so pnpm run host. With that, our application start with a network, this one, which has this IP address. So if I share this now in the chat, you'll be able to see my application running there. And if I make any changes, you should be able to see it on real time because we are in the same network. So you can try out and check that IP address with the port I've shared, and it should do the same. So if I open this on network, it should show me the same application in the browser. So that is how you run your application. It is the normal way, pnpm run dev. You want to build, you want to lint, to preview, to host. So the normal dependencies, it's just the React itself, the library, and the React DOM, which is normal DOM that helps you operate or eject some DOM elements in your application. So it has a lot of dev dependencies that makes it the React library. So of course you have types for Node, React, React DOM. We have now the Vite, which is a dev dependency that helps you in building and running your application. We have the TypeScript compiler, some global, and the rest. So that is the package.json. So let's see the folder structure of a React application. So it is the same procedure or the same architecture we have in the backend, but now in the front end, everything is set for you. You don't need to set manually. Things like the source folder, it already comes with that source folder. And this source folder comes with a lot of files and folders. So the asset folder, it's where the images or the assets will be, you'll be adding them in your application. Then we have the app.css. So the app.css is now like the style.css. It styles your what? This file, which is app.tsx. We said we are in the TypeScript, so our file extension will be tsx instead of what? JSX. Then we have what? The index.css. So they work the same with this hand in hand with this app.css to style this app.csx. Then we have the main.tsx file. So the main.tsx file is your entry point of your application. We said React is not able to catch your errors well. So we need some wrappers that helps you to catch those errors. Like now this one, the strict mode. So the strict mode lets you find the common bugs in your component array during the what? Development. That is why we are wrapping our app. So this app is this file we have here, which is app.tsx, where we have now the actual code, which was now the state I was talking about, the useState. So a useState is just a library in React, and that library, it has two values. So you just destructure the useState. So the useState, it has the state and the setter function. So the setter function is the one update the state or the value of this. So if I call that here on this normal HTML, an HTML button, which has on click what? On click what? Listener. So on click listener, we do a callback function. So that callback function, we call the set count function in our state. Then we call the state and update it with what? With 1. So anytime we click this button, we are calling the setter function, and our value, which is state, we update it with 1. Then we display that in a what? In this count variable. So we use these curly braces. So curly braces, you see in the next class, it's about the templating in JSX or TSX. So we use these curly braces heavily in React. So that is where it helps you write or display your React values using these brackets. Then whatever you are seeing in the front end or the browser is this anchor tag with this white logo and React logo. Then the H1, whatever we have here. So whatever we have here, this is the Vite logo and the React what? Logo. Then the H1. So the H1 is what we have here. Then here we have our button. So this button is now that has what? The state, use state, which is initialized by 0. So if we refresh this, the initial value is 0. If we initialize it with 100, so the initial value of this state is 100. So even if we rewrote this, the initial is 100. Then it starts counting from that, from 100, added at 1, going forward. Then the other one is just this text, which is telling you if you want to see some changes, you want to update or edit the app.tsx to save, to test what? The auth module reload in your application. So if I change something here, which is like Vite plus React, maybe arrow React, since I have autosave, it automatically gives me the updates on real time. And remember, I've shared that on my the network we are. So you should be able to see the changes on real time, the one I shared on that link in the chat. So that is now the auth module reload that comes with the Vite. We'll be using that every, and now the next thing you want to understand is how things are operate on React. Of course, the node modules is where we have our modules or the libraries that now makes up the React, and other library that will be adding. It will be stored where? In the node modules. Then we have the public. So the public folder, it's where you place your images that you want to be accessed by your application, which is in this source folder. Then the same case, we have those for images here. They can be accessed with the build version of your application. If I build this application, if I run the build command, so let me add a terminal here, then npm run build. So I built, I should get a dist folder with now compile application. Yes, so we have now this dist. So this dist, anything that is in this public folder can be accessed by either your dev application or the dist application that is ready for deployment. So that is the purpose of this public folder. Then on the source folder, we talked about the asset. So the asset is a file that you want to store here and use in your application. For this case, like this React SVG, that React SVG, I think it should be somewhere at the top. This one, that is what we are having there. Then the app.css, we saying it's you are now styling file for your app.csx. If you check there, it's imported app.css. So it apply now the normal CSS properties like dot logo. So logo have this height, funding, and the rest. Over, keyframes, count, and the rest. So on the app is where the magic is happening. We are writing our code here. Then on main TSX is now our entry point. The same case in the backend where you have the index.ts, which is our entry point. Now the main TSX is our entry point. Whatever is happening here, we are calling the strict mode from React, and we are calling the create route from React DOM client. So the create route is just a function that lets you create a route to display React what? Component inside a browser what? DOM mode. So this create route, we want it to expect some parameters, which is now the container and some option. So the container for this case is our document. And where are we getting this document? Is this file we have here, which is the HTML document. Excuse me. So this HTML document, it is now the one we are mounting our application here. If you see here, we have an empty div with the ID what? Root. Then below there, we have a script, which is of type module, which is the file, which we are calling what? The main dot what? The TSX, the one we are doing here. Then on the main.tsx, whatever you are doing, you are getting element by ID, which is now the root. This one, the one you are passing on this ID. So you want to mount now or to create some DOM in this what? Div we have in this HTML. Then we want to do what? To render. We talked about what is rendering. It is converting TSX component or the React component to what? To what? To browser DOM what? Element. That is whatever now this is happening. So we are calling the create route, which calls the container to display the React component, which is now through the help of render function, we are rendering our application, and the application is now this file, which is app.tsx. So this is TSX or React. Then we are converting it, or we are converting it from React to DOM using the render function, which is now we are wrapping that function with this now the strict mode, which is just a wrapper in React that helps you catch some errors or the common bugs in your component in array what? Development. So if you over to that component, it will just tell you whatever it's doing. So it lets you find some common what? Bugs in your application. We'll be wrapping more of these wrappers as we go ahead. So once we wrap that, we render that now in our HTML document. So we mount that app.tsx in our HTML here. So that is whatever is happening. So do not ask yourself, why are we having this HTML document? How do you are not writing anything? We are writing React. So in the React, we need to render that component to DOM. And what is happening? We are just creating root, which is a function in React that displays or lets you create some root to display the React component inside a what? A browser DOM node. Then we access or we get the div that we want to mount our React component, which is now the root. The root is now this div we have here, which has this ID. Then after that, we render what? That application. So anytime we are writing our application, everything must come to this app so that it can be rendered in this application. So if we'll be having some components in our source folder, those components must come back to this app, you like mounting them in this application so that can be rendered by our main.tsx through where you have wrapped our what? Application. Like this is our gateway to our what? Our React application. So the gate, then it's redone with the strict mode in our HTML document. So the rest is just now other files, like we know the purpose of package manager. It gives you the metadata of your application, especially the dependencies and the scripts that you can run. Then the type, which is module, which is now the ES6 module. That is why you are seeing the import keyword and export keyword. If it was the traditional or the common JS, you'd be seeing require keyword instead of import. And then what else do we need? So of course the README is just a markdown of what the application is doing. Then the TS configuration, these are just the TS compiler option that we do. So on front end, we have some different of way how we handle the configuration. So we have also the TS config node JSON. Remember things to do with the lib, module types, skip bribe, module resolution, allow importing TS extension. These are the same thing we did on the backend. We have a batic module, module detection, no emit, we have the street and the rest. We will need to also to include the VIT so that it can be able to help in our front-end tooling or front-end development. And we have the VIT configuration. So you don't require to change anything on this file. Yeah, just files made for you to simplify your development journey using React and VIT. Of course, we also have the git ignore. So the git ignore, remember you need to ignore the files that you don't want to push to GitHub. And strint is the file that we said. It helps check some errors in your application. Then the PNPM log, it logs your version of your application from being updated or unaltered and during your development. Then I don't think we have any file or folder in our application that we do not understand what is that file doing or the purpose of that file.